Hey, future Pacific Northwesterners and Californians alike. Welcome to the Portland Life Channel, the go-to spot for all things lifestyle and relocation. I'm Ann Stewart. This is Erica Hagfirst, your go-to gals here in Portland. And today we've got an exciting exploration lined up. Have you ever dreamt of the laid-back vibes of Portland or the sun-soaked landscapes of California? You're in the right place.
But hey, before we dive in, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and ring that notification bell. We've got plenty more insights and tips coming your way. Let's get started.
So we're diving into the differences between Oregon and California. So our biggest feeder state of buyers obviously comes from California, no surprise. It's on the West Coast. When people are evaluating making a move, for the reasons we're going to go into, they're looking at Seattle versus Portland. Obviously, we are still one of the cheaper states to move to, but we'll get into that later. But we're diving right into the first topic, which is the biggest one, which is probably the climate differences, right, Erica?
Big difference there for sure, too.
Big.
Obviously, we're going to be a wetter climate. We're going to be probably a cooler climate as well. But the cool thing is that we have 4 distinct seasons. So that's always been my favorite thing. I love fall. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous time of year here. The leaves are all changing, and it's just generally we have these dry, sunny, crisp days with lots of beautiful colors around, which it's not going to be the case necessarily down in California.
No.
You get a lot drier weather, probably you get a lot more sunny days. So if consistency is key to you, then California might make more sense to you. But up here in the Northwest, what makes us so cool is just the 4 seasons and then having just some diversity in the eye candy of what our area offers. I mean, the Northwest is beautiful. Hands down, can't be beat. I've lived here generally all my life between Oregon and Washington. And every time I've thought about moving out, there's no place that's as beautiful or has the cool, 4 seasons or has the character that our weather does. The one thing I will say that definitely plays a role if you're rain sensitive, because we do get a lot of rain, is the difference between the El Nino and the El Niña years. So El Nino years tend to be wetter and more mild, which is great because we don't generally get snow, we just get a lot of rain. However, El Nina years tend to be colder and kind of more intense years. They're drier, which is great, but definitely not friendly if you're looking for some warmth. I would say the other big difference that we see is a lot of people move up here because we have a much lower fire danger.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people down in California, you guys have gone through intense, fires, and that's just not the case that we generally find up here, especially on the west side of the state. It's rare that we have them close to the city.
And we have so much rain, more water.
Exactly.
Not that we don't have them, but we don't get those longer dry spells like you do. And so we're able to sort of mitigate the possibility of having more, when we hit those dry years, like Erica was saying, we are more exposed to having more fire. Certainly in areas like Bend or Central Oregon, they have a fire season almost every year at this point. But here in the Portland metro area, it's kind of rare. We can sometimes get the air conditions from the fires, whether it's in Washington coming down or Central Oregon, but for the most part, we don't experience that. And there was a year where a lot of Californians moved up here just because they were tired of the smoke season, the fire season. So it's not necessarily a weather thing, but it kind of is. It all goes together.
Very true. Okay, so cost of living is the next thing that we're going to talk about. And I'm going to say this. We are still the most cost-effective city on the West Coast to live in. And share some facts that you found.
So Erica's right. When you look up and down the West Coast, which a lot of times people moving from California are looking at their options. When they look north, they're looking at either Portland or Seattle. And Seattle is not that much different than LA costs. So a lot of people look at Portland. Our average sales price of a home in the Portland metro as of the time we're doing this video is $597,000 compared to LA and San Francisco, which both was right around an average sales price of $1.3 million.
I mean, that's almost double. That is more than double.
It's about double.
So you could get 2 homes here for 1 home down there.
Right. And a lot of our buyers, people that we work with, whether they move up here or they're renting and whatnot, they come from California. They literally can get 10 times the house for their money. Yeah. And the same house comparably, up here is usually a bigger house.
Well, I was going to say, because they're not getting mansions for $1.3 million down there.
That's like a basic,
very entry level, small homes, nothing exciting. Whereas when you come up here and you're looking in the 1-3 range, you're getting a lot more house, you're getting a nicer house or a nicer area. So definitely, you know, we see this a lot when we're dealing with buyers from California. They're always shocked at what they can get, or that's been a big motivating factor for making their move up here.
And the other really interesting point is when we have the Californians moving up here, they not only get a more house for their money, but they get to live in not only a bigger house oftentimes, but in a neighborhood that they want to typically raise their family in, or where they can kind of go to that next level. If they were to stay in California, and we hear this a lot, they would almost have to pay double, which is, you know, approaching over $2 million to get a house that up here would be, you know, $700,000-800,000. So,
and then the other thing that kind of plays into the cost of living is that the cost to operate these homes is going to be cheaper. So utilities are generally cheaper here by a pretty significant factor, especially depending on whether you're looking at San Francisco or LA, you know, comparatively, but we are still the cheapest by far on utilities.
And
so
to give you an idea of that, San Francisco has 44% more cost of utilities than Portland. That's
significant.
Half. And guess how much you have to make more in San Francisco? 61%.
Whoa,
more.
You need 2 jobs
just to afford the cost of living there. Now in LA, it's not quite as bad. It's about a 21% increase in income you have to have in order to have an average cost of living in LA. So as you can see, when people are looking at their quality of life, which is very much associated with cost of living, they're looking up here and going,
we look really good.
Can I handle the rain? Because usually they get up here and they just love the housing and, you know, the overall things that Portland, you know, offers people. But the rain is usually the thing, which we talked about earlier, that they have to kind of overcome. But a lot of times they could easily do it because they're getting to live.
Well, and you can take more vacations when you're saving that kind of money. I mean, that's a pretty significant savings.
Heard of keeping Portland weird?
That is our motto here.
That is our motto.
And you see it on bumper stickers.
Yeah. So what does that look like here versus California?
I think, you know, I've always felt like Portland is very welcoming. We take in every group that you want to think of. I mean, you know, tattoos. We love our tattoos. We love piercings. Whether you're in some different subsect of interest, it's welcome here. I mean, we have our, you know, annual naked bike ride through the city. We are very accepting.
The weirder, the better.
It is really the weirder, the better, you know? So it is all inclusive here in Portland. I don't know if that's necessarily the case down in California.
I think California has that, but I think it's just a different type of diversity and weirdness that's going on, because I have friends that live in California that come up and they're like, this is definitely weirder than California. I will say that when it comes to like dress attire, one thing I noticed the difference is like my LA friends dress classy and like they show up, you know, whereas here in Portland, we're all about comfort and vests. And
we like our flannel.
We're trying to
like
be warm
our
and dry, and they're not worried about that because it's so warm there. They get to dress down or dress up and be comfortable. So I think the climate kind of dictates a lot of the attire. And it's not uncommon to meet up with somebody in a professional setting and you're not wearing like a blazer or a sports jacket. You're wearing flannel, you're wearing comfortable
if it's raining
clothes.
Out, you're wearing Gore-Tex and you know, things that'll keep you dry. I mean, we are very weather dependent and comfort dependent. We just are not like about getting dressed up for a lot of things. It almost
feels weird sometimes to dress up, you know, and yet in LA, my LA friends tend to do that on a daily basis. So I think that's kind of one of the things too. But yeah, just going back to diversity, I think we're just a lot more. You'll see things in Portland you don't always see in other places.
It's so true. You will see a lot here, but we're welcoming of it. We love it. We're very relaxed. We have a laid back atmosphere and welcome everybody. So one of the other differences between Portland and California is that we really focus on keeping a natural landscape. So we love our trees. Obviously, we're Tree City. It's a big deal here to keep things lush and green and kind of feel like we're in nature everywhere. Since we are still a smaller, big city, we have a big focus on that. Green spaces and not getting rid of all of our trees. It's almost a little bit weird in some of the planned communities because it is a little bit more rows of homes, less trees. But in most of the greater Portland metro area, there's a huge focus on keeping it feeling like you're living in nature. Wouldn't you agree, Ann?
Absolutely. I mean, they do try really hard to, when you go to develop a piece of land or a housing project, the city gets highly involved with any environmental overlays, keeping trees in place as much as possible, environmental testing, all the things you can possibly think of to make sure that they're keeping in check with checks and balances so that we can keep natural things natural. And that's just kind of like all over. Not that California doesn't have that, because I know they do have a focus on that. But just because we're a smaller city, you know, we don't have to make as big of a effort to really go more into like building for the masses. Our population is a lot smaller than California. Like here, California is the largest populated state in the United States. And so we have the advantage that while we are a small, big city and we're growing, we can still kind of manage and maintain a lot of that natural scape that a lot of us appreciate. And when you get to Portland, you look around, you're like, boom, there's Mount Hood. Boom, there's Mount St. Helens. There's the Gorge. There's the Columbia River. Like nature's kind of all around. And that's a pretty stark difference to a lot of big cities where it just feels like you're in a city full of concrete versus here in Portland, it feels like you can look around and it's cute because we'll have people come from out of town and they're like, oh my God, look at all the Christmas trees around. That's part of our landscaping, you know, or they're like, wow, look at Mount Hood. It's just standing out there. So I think when you get here, you really appreciate just how much nature is still right here in the city, even though you're in the city.
Yep.
Now, let's talk about the economic opportunities. So when Californians look to make the switch, a lot of times Californians have a well-paying job. Of course, we all know Silicon Valley is in California, but up here in Portland, we have the Silicon Forest. We've got a ton of tech. And we also have a ton of other industries. So the job market is booming out here. And there's also really well-paying jobs.
Yeah.
Now, if you're from California making the move, but you don't want to quit your job, if you have the option to work remotely, then a lot of Californians look at that as, hey, I can get, you know, the cost of living benefit and keep my job and work remotely, and or take a job where, you know, maybe your headquarters is on the West Coast and you're not really making any major moves, you know, as far as like time zone changes. So if you're looking to make a employment change, oftentimes there's a lot of opportunities for people we find to move up here from California while either keeping their current job or finding a new one, because we do have a bourgeoising job market up here for people that are interested in making the move and getting employment.
All right, so next we're going to talk about commuting, which we always joke up here that we think our traffic is getting really bad. If it's a 45-minute to an hour commute, we're like, whoa. However, what we hear from all of our California clients that come up is that is really good. They're experiencing 1 to 2 hour commutes. And so while we think it's bad up here, the traffic is far better. And we're starting to get a lot more routes. We have a lot more public transportation that's coming into play. So we really do kind of, you know, have a lot of options when it comes to commuting up here, even if you have to cross the river.
True. And you know, it's one of those where I've been to California and sat on a freeway for a solid hour, not moving very fast. That's pretty common there. And a lot of people have to move further out to afford housing in most big California cities. So they have to do the commute. Whereas when they come up here, they're like, okay, there's traffic, there's bottlenecks at times, depending on the time of day, but you can get back and forth across the river or be closer to one side of the river or the other, depending on what your lifestyle is. So our traffic is nothing compared to California traffic.
I have several friends who have moved up here from California that literally were commuting 90 minutes each direction. And now that they're up here, they're like, oh, well, your traffic's so easy. This is nothing. We would take it all day long and do it over again.
And there you have it, folks, a comprehensive look at the differences between living in Portland and California. Whether you're drawn to the eco-friendly vibes of the Pacific Northwest or the diverse opportunities and landscapes of the Golden State, both offer unique experiences.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more content. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.